So, today I want to share with you this wild adventure I embarked on, teaching my dog to walk on a tightrope. Yes, you heard that right, a tightrope. Now, before you roll your eyes and think I've completely lost it, let me tell you why I decided to take on this challenge. It all started with a casual afternoon scroll through YouTube. You know how it goes. You start watching cute animal videos, and before you know it, you're knee-deep in a rabbit hole of dogs doing tricks, cats playing piano, and, you guessed it, dogs walking on tightropes. I was mesmerized. I thought, if they can do it, why can't my dog? Now my dog, Max, is a rescue pup with a heart of gold and a bit of a mischievous streak. He's a mix of a border collie and a little bit of who knows what, which means he's got energy for days and a knack for getting into trouble. I figured, why not channel that energy into something productive? Tightrope walking seemed like the perfect blend of fun and challenge. Plus, how cool would it be to have a dog that could impress everyone at the park? So, I dove in head first. First things first, I needed to set up my tightrope. I didn't want to go all out and invest in professional equipment just yet. I took a sturdy piece of rope and tied it between two trees in my backyard. It wasn't exactly a circus setup, but it was a start. I made sure it was low to the ground, safety first. I didn't want Max getting hurt if he took a tumble. I was nervous, but also excited. I could already picture the viral video, "Dog masterfully balances on tightrope." Now the real challenge began. I had to get Max to understand what I wanted him to do. The first step was getting him comfortable with the rope. I lured him over with treats, and he was instantly intrigued. I mean, who wouldn't be? A new object in the yard? Treats? It was like Christmas morning for him. I encouraged him to step onto the rope, and after a few hesitant paw lifts, he finally did it. I was ecstatic. But then, of course, he promptly lost interest and started chasing a butterfly. Typical Max. After several failed attempts and a lot of patience, I realized I needed a strategy. I started small, just encouraging him to walk across a short, low piece of rope. At first, it was a game of trial and error. I would hold the treat just above the rope, coaxing him to step on it. He would look at me like I was crazy, but eventually, he took a few steps. And let me tell you, those few steps felt like winning the lottery. I celebrated like he'd just completed a marathon. Sometimes, I think my neighbors must have thought I was losing it, shouting praises for my dog's tiny achievements. As the days went by, we made some progress. I learned that consistency was key. We practiced daily, even if it was just for 10 minutes. I'd set up mini training sessions, and Max would trot over, tail wagging, ready for our little adventure. I started to incorporate commands, using walk and stay, to help him understand what I wanted. He was a quick learner. But there were days when he just wouldn't focus. I'd find myself talking to him like he was a little kid. "Come on, buddy, just a few more steps." I mean, who knew teaching a dog to walk on a tightrope would require so much enthusiasm? Then came the moment of truth. I decided it was time to increase the challenge. I raised the rope a bit higher and made it longer. I was nervous, but I felt like we were ready. I called Max over, and he looked at me with those big, trusting eyes. I could see he was a little unsure, but I encouraged him. "You've got this, buddy." And just like that, he stepped onto the rope. My heart raced as he balanced, wobbled, and then he made it to the other side. I couldn't believe it. I was jumping up and down, practically crying tears of joy. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were plenty of setbacks. There were days when Max just wouldn't cooperate. He'd sit down in the middle of the rope, look at me like I was asking him to fly, and refuse to budge. I learned quickly that patience was essential. I started to understand his moods. Some days he was all about the tightrope. Other days he was more interested in sniffing every inch of the yard. I had to adapt my training to fit his energy levels. And then, of course, there were the moments of sheer hilarity. I remember one time, I was filming a little training session for my friends, thinking I'd capture our big breakthrough. Instead, Max saw a squirrel and took off, dragging the rope with him. I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, who knew tightrope walking could turn into an impromptu game of chase? As weeks turned into months, we kept practicing. I learned to celebrate the small victories and to embrace the setbacks. Max and I developed a bond that went beyond just owner and pet. We were partners in this crazy endeavor. I realized that teaching him to walk on a tightrope was more than just a fun trick. It was about patience, persistence, and the joy of learning together. Now, I'm not saying Max is ready to join the circus just yet, but he's come a long way. We still have our ups and downs, but every time he steps onto that rope, I'm reminded of how far we've come. So, if you're thinking about teaching your dog something new, I say go for it. Embrace the chaos, enjoy the journey, and remember that it's all about having fun together. Who knows? You might just end up with a tightrope walking dog, or at the very least, some hilarious stories to tell.